Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Matthew. I'm an educator at the Tennessee State Museum here in Nashville, Tennessee, and welcome to week number 3 of Virtual Haunted Museum 2020. Now, those of you who are familiar with our programming, who have come to the museum before, you'll know that every year, usually the Saturday before Halloween, we have our annual Haunted Museum event. It's full of crafts, artifacts, games, interactives, and of course, Halloween. Now, unfortunately, this year, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are unable to offer in-person programming. But this doesn't mean that Haunted Museum's not happening. We're actually bringing it to you bigger than ever with a whole month full of virtual activities. Every Friday, we have fall theme interactives posted on our kids' blog, along with story time, and Saturdays are full of Tennessee legends and ghost stories like the one you're about to hear. Now, if you attended last week, you'll know we talked about the spirit of DeKalb County. This week, we've got another great story for a bit of a younger age range, and it's actually about a haunted or maybe haunted print shop. And for those of you, once again, that have been to the museum, you'll know that we have a great Forging a Nation gallery that has a replica of an actual print shop like the one you would have found on the Tennessee frontier in the late 1700s. Now, to tell this story, we've got a coworker and friend of mine, Oliver, who's going to take it over. Oliver, over to you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tennessee State Museum. This is our print shop, and I am here to recreate a really interesting, possibly spooky, but not that spooky story that happened right here in this shop. So we're going to go back a few hundred years, back to the late 1700s, early 1800s, when this print shop may have been in East Tennessee. And so we are going to talk about the spirit of Rogersville. So what happened is I was in a print shop very much like this one in Rogersville, where I was the town printer. And I considered myself an honest man. You know, I went to work every day. This print shop normally has 4 people that run it, but I was the only one running it at that time. And that's a lot of work. And so what happened is that one day when I was in that print shop, a man appeared. And that man wanted something really unique and really challenging. He wanted some red Bibles made. He wanted 3 of them. And that is really challenging work for a printer, especially on their own to make. But it's really good money. And so we decided to go ahead and do it. And so I decided to do that. And that takes a lot of work. So that first step, right, is I have to lay all of that type. Type is this. These little pieces of lead that you see here, they could be letters, numbers. I've laid this one out, but you can't just lay out type the way that we normally write. You have to lay it backwards and upside down. So you can see I wrote out hello here. And so I was laying that type, and type can take a really long time to lay, especially for something as long as the Bible. And so, you know, I had 2 weeks to do this project, and so kind of 1 week turned into almost the second week, and by then I was getting other work too. People needed invitations, the town needed some deeds to be printed up, and time got away from me. So I was almost near to the end of that second week when I kind of remembered that I had these red lettered Bibles to print. So I'm over there laying type, and I finally finished about 11 o'clock on my last night to finish. And then something strange happened. I kind of just fell asleep right here on this desk. And 11 o'clock became 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock became 1 o'clock. And then something really strange happened. I heard the door close in the print shop, and I awoke to see these 2 kind of ghostly figures operating my print shop. One was a man kind of dressed like me, and another was a female. And I was really confused because they were running this whole shop. They had moved the type over here to the press. I saw the man grab these ink daubers here, and he had dipped them into ink, kind of rolled them around, and then just started beating all that ink onto the type like a beater would in a normal print shop. And then I saw the woman. She would get a piece of paper. She would put it up here in the frisket and type pan, and she would lower it and then pull this under the press like a puller would, and then pull the bar here and actually print those pages. It was so strange. It was weird to see them do that, and I thought I was just having a dream. So I kind of dozed back off. And then 1 o'clock became 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock became 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock became 4 o'clock. And I kind of woke back up again, but it was strange because they were doing the exact same thing. They were still over here printing, right? He was using the ink daubers, she was being the puller, and they were it was a really good team dynamic they had going on. And then I kind of just went back to sleep again. And then 4 o'clock became 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock became six, six became seven, and that's when I finally woke up and I was shocked. All three of those red lettered Bibles had been finished. And I was confused because when I had fallen asleep, I had just barely finished laying that type. And so it was really strange. But about that same time, the man walked in, the man with the shroud on and his covered face. And like I said, I'm an honest man. So when he gave me the payment, I told him that, I didn't really do this work, that I'd kind of fallen asleep. And I told him the same story I told you with maybe these ghosts. And he just kind of chuckled and laughed and thanked me and then left. It was really weird. And then I went and started looking for answers. I traveled around town, Rogersville. It's one of the oldest towns in Tennessee. So I went and found the oldest resident that I could, and I told him this strange story, and he sat and listened and pondered, and then kind of just started laughing too. And then he told me something really interesting, that Rogersville was actually the home of the very first print shop in Tennessee, and that it was a man by the name of George Ralstone and his wife Elizabeth, and they worked as a team to in that print shop. In fact, George ended up becoming the first state printer in Tennessee. And when he actually passed away, Elizabeth took up on that role and became the first elected woman in Tennessee history. And so maybe that's who I saw that night. I really don't know. It was so strange. But what do you think? What do you think happened? Um, well, that's my story, and that's all I have for you.
Well, Oliver, thank you so much for sharing that great story with us, and thank you for everyone who took the time to watch online with us today. That's going to be it for this story, but we do have a few more coming up later in the month, and I want to let all our viewers know that the best way to follow any and everything Haunted Museum related here at the Tennessee State Museum is our website. You can go to tnmuseum.org, click on the TSM Kids page in the top right-hand corner, and then click on the Virtual Haunted Museum tab. And once again, that'll take you for all our upcoming events, stories like the one Oliver just told, as well as recordings of past ones. But on behalf of myself and Oliver, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a good afternoon. Stay safe. We hope to see you soon.